Okay, hello everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Fiona and I work for the Mammal Society as Education and Training Officer. And I'm just here to give you a bit of an introduction to the Schools Mammal Challenge, tell you a little bit about what it is and why we want you to get involved, and then just answer any questions you've got as well. I know there aren't that many of you live on the call today, but I know that quite a few people have signed up for access to the recording as well. So if you've got any questions as we're going through live, just pop them in the Q&A box or in the chat. And if you're watching this as a recording and you've got any questions later on, you've got my email address on the screen there, fiona@mammal.org.uk. Feel free to just drop me an email there and I'll see what I can do to help. So Schools Mammal Challenge is an activity we've got set up for National Mammal Week. So National Mammal Week takes place from the 22nd to the 28th of April, so 2 weeks from today. And our theme this year is rediscovering the world of forgotten mammals. And we hope that through Schools Mammal Challenge, you'll be able to rediscover some of the mammals that you've got on your school grounds, and that hopefully this will help you start to build mammal monitoring into your activities that you do at school. And hopefully it will build a love and appreciation of mammals for the young people that you work with as well. So although this is a standalone event, we really hope that this just starts your journey of engaging with the Mammal Society. So for those of you who don't know us, the Mammal Society was established in 1954. So this is our 70th year, and we're dedicated to the monitoring, study and conservation of mammals across the British Isles. And you can see our vision on the screen there, a future in which sustainable mammal populations thrive as part of healthy and diverse ecosystems benefiting people and nature across the British Isles. And our mission is threefold. We work to ensure a bright future for mammals by inspiring, informing, supporting and enhancing conservation projects and policies that protect and restore native mammal populations. We empower conservationist students, citizen scientists and nature champions to play a role in conservation now and in the future. And we do that through training, resources and survey activations. And we seek to build public awareness and support for mammal conservation through education, communications and campaigns. The Mammal Society is quite a small organisation. There's only 6 core staff, but we are a science-led organisation and we look to really empower people to be involved in the conservation of mammals. And in our 70th year, this is a great time for us to kind of start our broader engagement with schools and young people. So you're probably wondering why mammals? So the State of Nature report, which is this document here that you can see, came out in 2023. And this report uses data from a range of different NGOs, different citizen science schemes, UK-wide monitoring schemes. And the report revealed that we are in danger of losing 1 in 4 of our native terrestrial mammal species from the UK. So the data is quite shocking. Mammals are an integral part of the ecosystem. They're often vulnerable because they're less numerous and longer lived and slower breeding than other wildlife. And in other words, that means that if things get bad for mammals, it can be difficult for them to recover, and the impact on wider ecosystems is going to be great. They bring balance to ecosystems because they act as predators and prey, so that impact is going to be really, really noticeable. And if you think about what mammals have ever done for us, they're our pollinators, our ecosystem architects, our indicators of healthy ecosystems. They control insect populations and they're vital food sources for birds of prey and large carnivores. And all of those facts are just their ecological value. They're ingrained in our folklore, our history, our culture. We celebrate them in fashion and art and children's book characters, in nature writing, but we often don't have those encounters ourselves. And therefore, we're not really cited on how they're actually doing in the local landscapes. So although they're quite iconic in our culture, they are elusive and nocturnal, and they're often in small numbers. So it's no wonder that they're severely under-recorded. But that is really bad news for conservation, as we might not be aware of an issue with their populations until it's too late, and we don't always have the data we need to inform policy, land management, and protect potential reintroduction projects. So monitoring mammals is really important. Every decision that's made about the environment, whether it's where to create a new nature reserve or where to build a new supermarket, depends on accessible wildlife information. So by taking part in wildlife recording yourselves and by engaging young people to do so, you can help to ensure that these decisions are based on the best and the most up-to-date information. And hopefully this starts your journey on engaging with those decision-making processes locally as well. And hopefully by doing this, we can help to get better outcomes for nature. So the Mammal Society has a free app, which makes it easy for anyone to record mammal sightings. So if possible for this to be installed on your school devices, that would be brilliant. But I appreciate that might not be feasible for everyone. But what Mammal Mapper does is it means that you can record ad hoc sightings, but you can also record non-presence as well. So if you were going out to do a walk, you can set Mammal Mapper up so it tracks your route and how long you're out surveying for. And then we know if you don't see anything, because that information is just as useful as what you do see. Mammal Mapper data also then goes into iRecord, so it gets verified by experts who can confirm the sightings and can match the pictures up to say what you've seen, and then that feeds into the NBN database. So specifically why we're interested in working with schools to do this, it's all about people and sites. So getting an accurate picture of mammal populations needs people power, and it needs people who can spend that time getting skilled up and learning the techniques for monitoring and recording, and knowing their local ecosystem or the particular species to monitor, for them to then conduct long-term consistent monitoring in the same site to build up an accurate picture of those trends, as well as just a snapshot. So this year's Schools Mammal Challenge will just be a snapshot, but if it's something you continue to engage with year on year, we've then got that long-term data to see how the trends in mammal populations are changing in your school ground. And we need access to sites all across the UK to build up that national picture. And if you think about in England, only 8% of the land is publicly accessible because of the lack of right to roam. So it can be really difficult for us to get that data, even when the Mammal Society has got our local groups and our really engaged volunteers, we can't always get access to sites. School grounds are obviously a site that are private, but they offer significant amounts of non-built up land or varied habitats and little footfall and vehicle traffic, and even less so in holidays and in the evenings. So monitoring of mammal presence of these sites can really help contribute to biodiversity records and can equip the community to consider improvements to management or projects to support existing and potential wildlife. So we really hope that engaging you with mammal monitoring on one side helps with conservation and helps us build up that national picture, but it also starts that conversation in your communities, that your young people go home and they talk about what they've been up to and they share that knowledge and that impact, and it has a wider impact around National Mammal Week and going forward. So for us, there's a huge benefit in engaging with young people. They're able to come together around school projects and benefit from being involved and learning those skills. But then they can also take that on and become mammal monitoring champions as they go forward into the rest of their lives, and into the different places that they move to or different projects that they engage with. So we hope that this sort of kickstarts their love of mammals, upskills them into being able to do some mammal monitoring at home or in their community, but also just opens up the door to conservation as an industry. Conservation is incredibly lacking in diversity, and we really want to be part of the change to that as well. So how the School Mammal Challenge works. So National Mammal Week, as I mentioned, is the 22nd to the 28th of April. You've probably already found your way to the online sign-up form, but if you haven't, if you find that one on our website, there is a link in the chat, and then you just need to put in a few little details about your school so that we can kind of monitor the impact of this. And then it's over to you to plan your mammal monitoring activities. So there's an educator's pack online, and that just gives you an overview of 3 different activities to help you get out and monitor mammals on your school grounds. We'd then really love it if you share your efforts on social media, and if you hashtag Schools Mammal Challenge and use some of the National Mammal Week hashtags as well, and tag the Mammal Society in anything that you post, and we'll be able to share and celebrate your efforts. And then we've got 2 live lessons that will be happening in National Mammal Week for you to participate in as well. So one on the Monday and one on the Friday. And then after the challenge, we will be awarding our mammal monitoring champions. So some of you will receive trophies for your efforts, but everybody that participates will be able to download a certificate, and they will be able to sign up to receive a poster on mammals in your landscape for your classroom later in the year. So I'm just going to pause there and check if we've got any questions before I move on to the sort of specifics of how the different challenges work. Doesn't look like we've got any questions. So I will move on to talk through the 3 different activities that we've got. So the first activity is Mammal Mile. So this is just about getting your young people out and about and having a look at your school ground or the landscape around you and looking for some signs of mammals. So as I mentioned before, mammals are elusive, and you might not necessarily see them all of the time, and they might not be that obvious, but you might find evidence that they've been there. So this could be tracks, this could be scat, like poo, or it could be other signs like burrows or sets and dens and digging and that kind of thing, with just anything that indicates activity. Even things as simple as molehills or rabbit burrows are an obvious sign that you've got mammals around, and they're a really good talking point for your young people. So for your mammal mile, you might want to go out as a group and just walk one route and look for signs of mammals on your own and record them on the Mammal app. You might also want to split your young people into different teams and set them up with a smaller area, a few meters, for example, where they can then look more in depth for those different footprints or different other signs. It would be really useful if you can try and cross different habitats as well, and you might be able to then discuss amongst your class what they found. Now, when you're out and about, it would be really handy to, hopefully, you'll be able to identify stuff yourselves and you get back to the classroom and using some other resources online. Another really useful thing is the Mammal Tracks and Signs ID guide from the FSC. And you can get those online quite cheaply. But you might end up with something that you really can't identify. So there's a good skill there in learning to document what you find. So you can have your young people do field sketches, you can have them write down their observations and give really detailed descriptions, but also getting a really good field picture is the most helpful thing. And you can send any pictures like that into us and we will try and get our experts to identify them for you. So if you're taking a field picture, you want a really clear and close photograph. You want something in there for scale, ideally a ruler, but if not, something else that's familiar, like a pound coin or a pen, and then also details of where in the UK that photo was taken. All of those things will help us get an identification for you, and we can send it over to some of our experts and get their opinion. Another resource that's really useful when you're out on your tracks and signs walk, if you've got school devices, the Seek app by iNaturalist. So what this does is it uses AI and it compares other records in your location to give you a suggestion of what the thing that you're trying to identify is. So that can be really helpful, and it has an offline feature as well, which is really useful. So there's lots of resources there to help you with tracks and signs. There's a few more on our website as well, a few ID guides and a few other resources about different tracks and different signs of mammals. So moving on to the next activity is camera trapping. So if you've got hold of a camera trap already, that's great. If you haven't, a couple of options are to contact your local record group, contact your local mammal group, or just get in touch with us and we will see if we can get some equipment to you if you'd like to set up camera traps. So the benefit of camera traps is that they can help us look for the stuff that we're not necessarily going to see. So lots of mammals are nocturnal, they're easily spooked, and they prefer quieter areas. So setting up that camera trap allows you to look for mammal activity without actually being there yourself. So this is a really nice activity for young people to get out and do, so they can pick where they're going to position their camera trap. Depending on how many traps you've got, you can set a few up. If you've already been on your mammal mile, you might have an idea of where a good place to set one would be because you've seen some signs or you've seen some crossing points or somewhere that you think would be worth watching. But if not, you can have your young people go out and have a quick scout around, have them discuss, or maybe have a vote on where you think the best place to set your trap is. And practicing setting up those traps is quite a fun activity as well. So you can set up the trap and get young people to move across like different mammals, and you can build in some learning there about how different mammals move or how they use the landscape, and then get them practicing those cameras. And once they're happy, you can leave them to set up overnight or for a couple of nights. There's a couple of handy resources on our website and some links to some guidance from MammalWeb. And also a blog post on securing your camera trap if you're going to put it in a public area. Camera traps are generally best for medium to large mammals, but you can record small mammals with them as well. You just need to bring that small mammal right up to the camera. So it might be that you're setting a footprint tunnel, and then in that case, you could set your camera to watch the footprint tunnel, which is quite nice because then you can try and match up the footage to the footprints that you record. But you can also set up feeding boxes. So you just need a box that your camera trap is right up against, open-sided, and then you've got some food in the middle and your mammals will come in, take their food, and hopefully you've got a nice clear image. And you can experiment with different lenses on the camera as well. So if you put a magnifying glass on the front of your camera trap, that will help you get a better, more focused image as well. So there's lots of different things you can play around with your camera traps, different positioning, different settings, so you can have them taking pictures or recording videos, and you've got lots of different options then. And this is another example of using the scientific method as well, so you can have your young people write hypotheses about what they think they're going to see. You can look at recording tables and categorizing your results differently, and you can also then think about how we present that information about what we found. So our final activity is footprint tunnels, which is another example of a way that you can kind of implement testing out the scientific method. You've also got the option for a little bit of arts and crafts because you can make your own footprint tunnels quite easily. So you might have come across hedgehog tunnels before. So these are the long triangular tubes, which are usually baited with wet cat or dog food. So you just have your triangular tunnel, so your piece of cardboard is folded in three. And then you have pieces of paper on the bottom, some masking tape and some bait in the middle. The masking tape you paint with a solution of charcoal and oil, because that just makes essentially an ink pad. So then your hedgehog will walk up to the food, stand in the ink, and then when it leaves, it will leave its footprints on the paper as well. You can buy those for convenience as well. Wildcare do a tracking tunnel, but they're really nice and easy to make. You can waterproof them by putting some cling film around them as well. And with hedgehog tunnels, you want to position them kind of against like a fence or a hedge or a shed or a wall, just against something. But you can also make small mammal tunnels. So usually these are square shaped and a bit shorter, and they're baited with grain or live mealworms. And with these ones, you can make them out of like a milk bottle or a juice carton just by cutting the ends off and putting a false base in the middle so you can change the ink and the paper every day. But with these ones, what you can do is then build up like some stones or some vegetation around them so that they're like a little route for them to get between one area of the landscape to another. You can even position them in trees or in bushes if you think small mammals might be using them. And then you've got a different set of footprints to have a look at the next day. We've got a blog post on, again, linked on the Schools Mammal Challenge page that talks you through step by step how you would make these as well. But this is another activity that you can give your young people quite a lot of freedom over, and they can make different designs, experiment with placement and all of that. Again, they can write hypotheses, they can create results tables, and think about how they present that information and what that means for your school as well. What mammals have you got present? You can start doing research tasks into looking at what you could do to support those mammals or to monitor them further. If you find that you've got a real diversity of small mammals and you can't identify them all, then maybe we could look at setting you up some small mammal boxes, or maybe you could look at doing some small mammal acoustic surveys or something in the future. So those are the three different activities that you've got for National Mammal Week this year. Obviously, you can do them at other times as well, and you can carry them on throughout the year and look at how those results change. And then in National Mammal Week, we've got our 2 live lessons. So the first one just introduces the Schools Mammal Challenge and National Mammal Week and just provides a bit of an introduction to mammals and to why they need monitoring. So that one happens on Monday at 2 p.m. And then on the Friday, the 26th of April, we've also got a webinar to celebrate your efforts. So all of your efforts that you've been sharing on social media or via email to me, we will be celebrating, and especially the schools that have been awarded mammal monitoring champions. And we'll have a little mammal quiz as well. And we're going to be joined by our patron Zeb to answer that one as well. So I think that is all that I've got to kind of really tell you about Schools Mammal Challenge, and just to give you a quick overview of all of the activities and what we've got going on. But if you've got any questions today, feel free to pop them in the Q&A box. Otherwise, drop me an email and we will do our best to get you sorted and get you set up ready for Schools Mammal Challenge in 2 weeks' time. So I will just check the Q&A box, but it doesn't look like we've got any questions at the moment. Feel free to pop them in. Otherwise, I will let you get back to your day. Brilliant. Well, it doesn't look like we've got any questions, so I'll let you get back to finishing off the rest of your day. Thank you for joining us today. And hopefully, if you've got anything you need to know about Schools Mammal Challenge, just drop me an email. But there's loads of guidance up on our website as well. Oh, I've just seen a question about suggested resources to celebrate this on a notice board. So you've got lots of different options there. So perhaps creating some information about the different mammal species that you might find around your school ground and some information about those. That could be a really nice research task for some young people. You could also look at the different monitoring methods and highlight those. You could think about just lots of different things, really. You could just think broadly about mammals, but you could think specifically about monitoring and about the things you found locally. That feels like a really nice activity for your young people to work on, celebrating maybe what they've done or writing it up as a scientific inquiry, perhaps. So hopefully that helps answer your question. Brilliant. Yes, please. We would love to see a picture of your notice board when it's complete. Thank you. Perfect. Well, if there's no other questions, thank you all for joining us. But feel free to reach out via email if you need to in the future.